When you're trying to make a living, trying to give the best for your kid, limiting him of movement by stripping away their authority to be themselves is not the way you should teach kids. When they have to face a world where they're going to be unprotected and alone, where they cannot be helped nor be guided, that is where you cannot control everything anymore. When your child is confused and scared of the real world because they were never let loose from their leash, that is your fault as parents. That is the cause of your actions, and that is why we are proud to propose. Let's make things clear. What is a middle income parent? It is a type of parent that is not below the poverty line, but it isn't accurate to say that they are above it. They are parents who make wages that are just enough to support their families. Most parents that are in this category work 9 to 5s, and thus they don't get to spend much time with their kids, and in turn, they need to spend the use to, of their limited time as best as possible. So, what are we debating? We are debating on whether or not free range parenting can make the best of our time with our kids because we only have a few hours to teach them core values, lessons, and etc. And we need to use those amount of time as much and as best as possible so that the kid can grow up to be successful and polite. Now, what is our parameters? Okay, so we don't say that free range parenting makes the kid fully independent. So Op cannot say that we are misguiding our children because we aren't guiding them at all. With all that said, I'll start my first argument. Helicopter parenting should not be a viable option for any parent, especially middle income parents, because you only have a few hours to control and safeguard your kid. It will take a lot of energy and will be wasted by trying to control the kid when you can use it for so much more emotional bonding, emotional connection. There's so much use of that time, and yet we will be wasted because of this. Even if we can control them, it is still not viable because with the time that we have, we want to teach them moral values, values they can apply in real life, values that they can use and they can connect with so that they can connect with people. But when you want to, but when you teach them that their wants are inferior and that you are the only one who will always be right and they will always be wrong, you can imagine what the kid will be like in the future. How will they survive? How will he survive in the real world if he tries to make a decision for himself? When if they're shoved away to the side and their opinions are not heard, how will they manage themselves when they are not giving the lesson of decision making? And that is a key aspect of helicopter parenting is the lack of decision, the lack of the choice to make a decision is that their decision making is never used because they were never given the chance to. They were never given the chance to make a decision for themselves. And that's not all. With the parents being overly involved with the kid's developmental life, when he's at a point where he or she should know themselves and understand who they are, they will not be able to do that because everything up to this point has been meticulously guided by their parents, and as such they do not know who they are right now and who they are right now, and they don't know if who they are right now is who they actually are, or as we call it, identity crisis. Identity crisis can lead to a lot of problems, but most importantly, identity crisis can lead to the decline of mental health, possibly making them more isolated, making the already short time that we have even shorter. And the love or affection that we could have given to them can possibly never be able to be accepted by the kid due to the isolation. And even if they manage to not isolate themselves, helicopter parenting also affects their social lives. How are you going to make friends if your parents don't let you have the types of friends because of their paranoia? How are you going to go to social gatherings when your parents want you to study or do something that they think are more important? Why do you feel uncomfortable right now? Because your parents force you to be friends with people who they think are a good influence. Next is critical thinking. It comes from questioning and asking why things the way they are the way they are. Asking why things that we are familiar with are the way they are. In helicopter parenting, we see that questioning has become a taboo. That their voices are nothing but sounds of winds rushing through the air. And if they question their parents, punishment can come in all sorts of ways. This makes them be fearful of questions. Even if it's a little, it's still concerning because you're not going to have a kid that has to survive in the real world when everything is sketchy and misinformation is everywhere, to not bring any level of critical thinking. My second argument is how we use our time. I've said before that we need to use it as best as possible and we should give affection as much as every other parent. But helicopter parenting doesn't fix this. It harms the kid as shown in my first argument, and some of my points kind of opposes the moral values that we normally teach the kids and that we normally see. When you're a parent trying to make the kid as best as possible and as successful as possible, when you while also trying to give love and expression affection as much as possible, this method just doesn't cut it. When you could have used that time for emotional bonding and learning about themselves, when you're trying to make them think that they have a voice, that they have a decision making skill, that they have a critical thinking skill, when you're trying to boost up their confidence, when you're trying to make them think that they are worth living here, making them think that their arguments and that their voices are not heard is not the way you should cut it. By making them not be able to see their voices, see how they talk, see how they act, they feel like they are being they are inferior. They feel like you're the most superior and they cannot just connect with you. And as such, they don't even try to connect with you emotionally at all. When you're trying to when you're with a kid and you're trying to emotionally bond with them and you see that they are not trying, you can feel that your heart is broken. But none of that is of the kid's fault. Every single part of that is your fault to begin with because you follow helicopter parenting. When you follow helicopter parenting, you hinder your and their ability to emotionally bond with yourself. And the emotional bond with parents is nothing like anything at all. When you strip away that bond with your parents, they will find other ways to bond with other people, such as friends and other family members. But when people are very untrustworthy, and when you are the only source where they can fully trust your opinions, when you strip away the trust and strip away that bond, and when you make them think that you are something that you then they cannot question, and they cannot give an opinion to, you will make them think that there are other ways to make people there are other ways for them to get opinions and to get a good advice. And when you do that, you make them susceptible to other people's very weird arguments or very weird ways or very weird moral values. You are the only one they should trust, and yet they are trusting other people that you don't know are good or not. When that is the case, when everything is said and done, you see that your kid is misguided. You see that your kid is lost. You see that your kid is unconfident, is problematic, and is rebellious. When you see all of that, you wonder why that happened. You wonder what happened in the past that made them to be this way. But when you see how you do helicopter parenting, when you see how you were making the time that you have, the limited time, the few hours of your life that you have just to say and just to rant to them, that is wrong. That is why we are so happy to propose.